Hello, all. We are back with another episode of Our Roots in Tea. So we are today. Actually, we're gonna dive really deep into the psychology in our minds and really our brain. And so I think these are very interesting topics. And today, while we talk about that, what we're gonna drink today is we're gonna drink the organic peppermint tea. It's actually caffeine free. So for those who, sensitive to caffeine, you can give it a try. Uh, and today I'm actually with my another great guest, Matt Larson. He's on the other line here, and he is, I believe, drinking coffee or some kind of other tea that he's doing.
I have coffee, but I have a tea with I guess it's like a steeped sort of thing, not quite tea bag, but it's
Cool,
licorice root with cardamom beans on
cool,
it, and
cool. Sounds good,
it was
man. Great. Yeah. So, I guess to kind of just start the conversation right away, just do it slow, nice and easy. It's the new year's 2021 now. What are you looking forward to?
Oh, well, the first thing that comes to mind is I guess the I'm looking forward to the government taking care of the people again, maybe a little bit. The inauguration is tomorrow, so that's just what's fresh on my mind right now. I don't like to think about the politics too much, but that's what got us to this point in the first place, is people ignoring what is important. So I'm looking forward to a sense of professionalism in the American government once again.
Okay, and do you mean specifically they should send more stimulus payments to people to take care of them? Like, what are
By
some
professional government, I mean I look forward to getting more money from the government. That's what I'm that's what I'm hanging on for. I mean that's part of a very big picture, but that should be part of it. Yeah, I mean a lot of people have blown through their savings, and who I don't even know. I don't know what people are doing right now. I've been lucky enough to get by, but
Sure,
I've still struggled, and just the
sure.
same. Not the same actually. Anyway, I don't know. But yeah, like the small businesses should be getting bailed out, and people should
Right.
be getting bailed out. We have enough money to do it. It's obvious, but that's it's a controversial subject. Subject.
It is actually. It's interesting that you brought that up too, because I had another friend. She was saying that the stimulus payments that, let's say, like the first round when they gave us the $1,200, she was saying that it didn't do anything because it literally goes back to like the homeowners, like the landlords, and then the bank and stuff, because you're just using that money to pay rent. You're not really doing anything else with it. So it's one of those where did it really truly help, right? I mean, comparing to the rest of the world, what we're doing, I don't feel like it's really enough, because I've heard that like other European countries, they literally freeze the rent or even pay like a certain percentage of people's income like during the pandemic period. But US didn't do any of that. All they said was like, oh, well, you just won't get kicked out if you don't pay rent, but you still will have to, later on. It's just a bigger amount, which is totally
Yeah,
insane, right?
and then when the pandemic didn't get better as they expected, when these deadlines happened, and then nothing changed once the unemployment ran out and once the eviction you know grace period ended. I don't know if they didn't extend anything. They just kind of let it crumble, I think, which
Yeah.
uh, which isn't right. But as far as like speaking on what the other, can you hear that lawnmower in the background?
Just a little bit. That's fine. Yeah, not a big deal.
It's a big deal to me. I don't want to ruin your podcast with the lawnmower.
Nah, don't
Um,
worry about it. This is pretty
so
casual. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but I mean, I'm not one to say that the 1,200 didn't help. It was certainly nice at the time, but a one-time handout when everything just got worse since then doesn't make sense. Yeah, I don't know. I think that Andrew Yang was really onto something with the universal basic income after
Yeah.
all. And
Yeah.
interesting how it timed out where right after he was running on that platform,
Right.
turns out to be something that we all actually desperately need. And
Right.
looking forward, it's really probably, I mean, he's looking 10, 20 years down the line. It's going to
Yeah.
have to go there eventually.
I won't say stunt, stimulus payment is not a stunt, but I'm just saying that part of probably what the reason why they do it is just because it's almost just to like, throw something at you to shut you up, to shut people up, like, so it's kind of like a psychological mind game, right? I mean, it feels like it,
Yeah, well, it's certainly tough to complain about getting free money. So like when they just did this last $600 one, I mean, people still complained,
Sure.
but it's still something. It's nobody expects this previous administration to really do what they're supposed to do anyway. So after tomorrow, I'm expecting some immediate
Change.
plans and relief. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. No, I get you. And no, I understand that. Yeah. Okay. No one wants to complain about free money, but in some sense, do you really think it's free money? Because a lot of it does probably
Nothing's
come from our
free, no.
taxes.
Right. Yeah, but I'm not. Yeah, I mean, overall, we are paying ourselves in a way theoretically, but it's a little different. I don't. I didn't have an extra $1,200 to give myself at that time,
Sure.
for example.
Sure.
So, but it's the socialist idea, and people don't like that. But when you see these other countries really taking care of their people, and then we obviously have enough money to spend on all these other things, it really is disheartening. And this is kind of like a every person for themselves sort of vibe that has been coming out. There's no community.
Yeah, that's something that I want to really dive deep into that actually, since you just mentioned it. Why do you feel like it's that way? Do you think the reason why there's the whole everyone for myself type of mentalities is do you feel like that's just like a Western culture thing, or
I don't know enough cultures to know if it's just us, but I'm sure that generally individualistic capitalist society has something to do with it. But what I personally think has a lot to do with it is that the news shows all the bad stuff constantly.
Yes.
Which is overall, we see this murder happen on the news, but that's like 1% of the people in that area that happened to. That's the least. That's what's happening the least.
Yeah.
But we think that it's happening all the time. So like the news kind of in a way trains us to not trust strangers. So I feel like that has something to do with it, where if there's a new person in your life, generally, yeah, you want to make friends or whatever, but also at the same time, our guard is up with everyone and it's hard to trust anyone. And I think that's something to do with the general problem of us not getting along in this country, is that we assume if you're not with me, you're against me.
That's weird, because now I just had a sudden thought was, so we are wired obviously to not trust strangers, but then you have the whole idea of like, oh, I'm gonna go take an Uber, which is like a stranger driving me somewhere, right? So it's such a weird.
But we trust corporations, maybe, and I'm just guessing here, but maybe. So I'm thinking for me, like I wouldn't trust some random person who drives up and say, "Hey, you need a ride." But
Sure.
if they are connected with this big corporation like Uber or Lyft, and then something goes wrong, I know that there's a way to track them down and get justice if something goes wrong, theoretically.
It's weird too, because you can even argue that corporations might be a little bit more, in some ways, more dangerous than like maybe an individual, I guess, depending how you see it.
Absolutely. They have all the power.
Yeah.
And corporations are people too now, don't forget.
Oh yeah. So that's why it's an interesting thought that, people somehow trust corporations more than like, even some homeless guy coming up to talk to you or whatever like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess because if there's something like, if I eat at McDonald's and get sick, I'm more likely to get a settlement. They're more likely to pay what they should, as opposed to if I go to some mom and pop place and get sick, no one cares. It's not newsworthy. I don't know.
Ah, I see. So it's all about, okay, I see what I mean. And actually that's a good thing. That's a good point, because I was gonna backtrack a little bit too, actually. Because you did mention about, all the news are either fake news or horrible news that people really pay attention to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and to me, that's just so weird, because I mean, I guess that's the way how our brain is wired, is that we want to always see the negatives rather than, like, positive news, or whatever the case is.
There's something really psychological about that, because just like how people tend to focus on the negative thoughts and memories a lot more easily than the positive ones also.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is a whole nother, I'm not an expert here, but I certainly psychoanalyze enough to think about it, where it's like you think about the bad things in order to prevent the bad things from happening again,
Oh.
to kind of guard yourself. So like if I have a bad encounter, or if I made a mistake, I'm going to think about that mistake 1,000 times, and it's going to, be a living hell while you do that. But subconsciously, maybe you don't even realize it, but you're thinking about all these mistakes you made in order to prevent making these mistakes again.
Okay.
So maybe like we see all this negative news. So that's one side of it. But then also you see all the bad news and you think, well, I'm sure glad that I'm not in that situation. Like why we can get so fascinated with someone going to trial. It's like, man, look at how much they fucked up. They're screwed, and I feel better. I feel more grateful for the choices that I made.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that also sounds a lot of like a lack of empathy, though, because because you look at someone,
Right.
you're like, oh well, I'm glad I'm not in that guy's.
Well, I mean, there's a thought that's certainly a part of it too. It depends on the person and how you're feeling that day.
Sure. Okay, I see.
Like
Okay.
whenever I drive by a car accident, that doesn't happen anymore. But like when I was in high school, my friends would always laugh at someone who's pulled over on the side of the road and their car's all fucked up or something. But I'd always feel sorry for them and feel bad for that. So I don't know. It varies.
Well, from your personal experience, I'm just to preface this to listeners, is that we're both not scientists or experts or researchers on this subject matter, but these are all personal experience. So from your personal experience, since we all, are so highly suggestive in terms of like negatives, how can we change that kind of approach, the mental approach, like, and start to think more positively?
Well, it's going to be really hard to do on our own. People meditate, and I've certainly thought about. I've done it enough to know how important it can be.
Sure.
But the practice of doing it every day, my girlfriend does it, and she does it, and I should do it when she does it, and I still don't.
It's just another thing. Yeah.
Right, but what is more fundamental is the news and the media, and just. But actually, it's much bigger than all that. The question was, how do we stop thinking negatively?
Yeah.
Right. This is one of the first times in history where we can see all the horrors of the world.
Yes.
In real time, all at once. And add to that the misinformation, add to that the propaganda, add to that the theatrical drama of it all, how things are presented in the news and made to appeal to your emotions. So like it's an overwhelming time to be a conscious being right now.
Right. No, I'm sure, at least for me too, the anxiety level is like all-time high, because there's just so much stuff going on, and it's
There's
crazy.
too much to think about, and it's not all positive.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, and it it certainly doesn't help that you have like influencers that are, a lot of times they're spreading these kind of misinformation, because is like a way of their, what they call clickbait, right? Because it's just to draw attention and make profits. I mean, that's what Facebook's been doing. I mean, of course, I'm not accusing them of it. Maybe they are, but I mean, aren't they kind of like sometimes sort of promoting certain groups or certain news just
Yeah, well,
to
yeah,
make a
like I
profit?
heard, like people that were joining one of those QAnon groups on
Oh
Facebook,
yeah,
then
yeah,
Facebook will recommend another
yeah, yeah,
similar group. Hey,
yeah,
storming the Capitol, join this group over here. They want to do it too.
yeah, yeah. No,
But
it's
they
crazy.
should
Yeah,
certainly monitor it more closely.
yeah,
Yeah,
because I saw because I watched this one documentary film, this called The Social Dilemma, and that's what they were talking
yeah, I
about.
saw that.
Yeah, yeah, the alcohol algorithm stuff, and I mean, to think deeper about it, it's just such an evil thing, right? Because it's like they're pretty much not really stopping the situation. They're just pouring more oil into the fire,
Right. It's a greedy thing, I think. Like it's just it's designed, like what I took away most from that documentary, The Social Dilemma, was that it's designed to be addictive.
Yes.
So like, and I deleted Facebook a few months ago, and I've never been happier. Although this last week I wanted to post something, so I downloaded it again, and
Mm,
I'm just and I just feel like sometimes, if you're having a bad day, you kind of get in this like weird mental fog in a way.
yeah.
When I'm in Facebook, I feel like that's where we all are in Facebook. It's just this mental fog of anxiety in a way,
Mm.
and there's just so much. I don't know. It really, for me, it just, after being out of it for so long, just did not make me feel good searching through it. But what was your question?
So why then? Actually, the follow-up question is why is Facebook or even all these other social media platforms, why are they not making you feel good? Bec- yeah,
We compare. You only post, like, on Instagram is a great example. You only post the good stuff. You only, like, opposite the news, social
sure.
media, we only post the good things about our own lives generally. Some
Yeah.
people use it as therapy, and they'll post, or they'll share, the articles and all that. But this is such a complicated issue, so nothing that I'm saying is like an absolute here.
Yes.
But you only post the good stuff. So when you're scrolling through Instagram, you're seeing all these people that and all these famous people or whatever, everyone living their best life on Instagram. So if you're having an off day and you see everyone else doing great, it's going to make you feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
There's a psychological thing there, which is what makes it really poisonous to people that have, which is most of us, I think, that have just general happiness issues.
And then you believe that most people, their brain is already so numb that they don't even notice that this is going on.
Maybe, but even if they do notice, it's not going to stop us, because it is feeding. Because we like to live vicariously, and we like to see what possibilities there are for people.
Mm.
So at the same time, it's feeding those chemicals that makes you think, oh, that could be me someday. But then now you're wanting something you don't have, and then it's just a cycle of I don't know. That's not everybody.
Sure.
I think that it's more people than admit to being that way. Uh, but we're all comparing
Right.
ourselves to each other. We're all in this
Yeah.
race. Like, and if you don't have 1 million followers, are you a failure? Like,
Yeah.
there was a book, I think The Art of Not Giving a Fuck, maybe, where
Is it like by Mark Manson? Is it that book?
I think that one, maybe.
So the art
But
of not giving
basically,
a fuck. Yeah.
it was a great book. But basically saying being average is the new standard of failure.
Huh.
Like, we're not allowed to just be a normal person with a
Uh,
normal life. We have to
yeah.
be amazing, otherwise
Yeah.
we're fucking losers.
That's a great quote. Yeah, that's a great quote.
So that is what can be going on psychologically.
It's so there are a couple of points obviously I want to bring up, but the first point here is, I was about to say was, like what you said, being average is to be seen as failure, and it's so it's so crazy to me how I don't even know when this thought had entered people's head, right? Because like dating back to history, you can even argue that a lot of people are pretty average. Most people are pretty normal. It's not like
Most
they're
people are, but we only hear about the people that weren't.
sure. So okay, so then they'll start looking to like, oh, the millionaires, the billionaires, and all that stuff, and be like, oh well, hey, this guy did this thing, and I'm still just like living at home and don't have a career, so like I'm a loser. Basically, is what's going on.
Maybe not so consciously, but I feel like subconsciously that is affecting us in a way. Because we're constantly comparing. But there's a lot of people that are totally fine and don't feel that way too. But for those that get really addicted to social media, especially, I feel like that's going on.
Yeah, I think most. No, you're right. You're right. Most people do the comparison. I like what you said. Maybe there are a select few that maybe use it to motivate themselves to, I guess, to be better, which is certainly possible. But like what you said, most people are pretty. I guess you can argue pretty normal and average, so they're not gonna think that way.
Yeah, but like but then I don't know why I was going to say this earlier, but like Game of Thrones, for example,
Sure.
the whole show is about the nobles and the people at the very top of the world, but all these villagers that you see running around getting tormented, they have stories too, but those are the ones we never hear about, and history kind of treats it the same way. There's a book called The People's History of the United States, which I still hope to read someday.
People's History of the United States. Okay.
Which is a history book told from the perspective of the common American.
Oh, wow. Okay. I need to ask you about
instead of the perspective of the politicians. I haven't read it. I've read the first 2 chapters. It's so damn depressing. I can't get through it.
Oh, okay.
It starts with like what happened to Native Americans in gross detail and really awful stuff.
Because just sort of tagging along what you just said, it's because the culture is really more focused on the successful, because they believe the successful noble people, their stories far more relevant than like a common villager, I guess. Even though you can argue that everyone's struggle is kind of like the same, right? More or less.
Yeah. So now, like when we're all able to have our own platform, we can have our own content out there, and we can really make a name for ourselves as far as like, I don't want to be forgotten or something like that. For me anyway, in my circle, I can't speak for everyone, but there's this feeling of, I want to leave something behind. I want to be remembered for something. What is that going to be? And that weighs on me personally sometimes,
Yeah.
Now we all have the opportunity to do it. Because back in the day, before all this technology, if you weren't one of the nobles or you weren't, a famous artist or something, then that's just fine. You're one of very many. But now, no matter who you are, it's up to you whether or not you want to try and put yourself out there and make a name for yourself in some way. I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling.
But it's also kind of like that's sort of like a tricky situation too, because even though now we have more platforms and technology wise more advanced and we can do a lot more things, but then also has more saturated, right? Like platforms are more saturated. There's more people trying to do the same thing. So then basically you fall back into what it was before, where like you still end up to being just normal because you got to still compete and fight over everyone else, but in a different way.
Right. Like I'm so grateful that I don't have to be in high school where, people make fun of me for having a low follower count,
Is that what they do?
Probably. I wouldn't put it past them,
Maybe, yeah.
Or someone makes a meme or a GIF of me falling asleep in class, and now the whole world's laughing at me.
Sure.
Like, we really escaped some of that fear.
Yeah, no, you're right. And actually now, so I just want to get to my second point there now with this whole kind of follower thing and the social media, is that maybe, okay, I don't know, I haven't done enough research on this, but it's just, for me, my personal opinion, it's a little bit of a contradiction, right? Because social media these platforms are made to be able to connect with people, to be able to meet new people or whatever it is, right? Or even just talk, right? But then for whatever reason, it's like kind of like an opposite of what it really should have been, right? Which is so weird. I mean, I don't know if you have any comments on that or your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, it's an amazing thing. Like when you really think about it, first of all, like
Sure.
and everything, you know, just like an iPhone, these smartphones are amazing devices. At the same time, they can be insanely addictive and destructive.
Yeah.
You know, so it's comes down to just the human nature of self-control and self-regulation, which we are very difficult at achieving.
So the thing that they supposedly create or invent is supposed to help us, but then in turn, it actually really harmed us.
Yeah, well, you'll never know how some of these things can turn out, and there are a lot of good things that come out of the social medias and all that. You know, like this mass communication is pretty great, and there's a lot of stories that you know, like I don't know if Breonna Taylor's story would have gotten the news that it has
Oh,
gotten
that's
without
true.
social media.
That's
You
true.
know, and all these injustices happening all over the world are getting a spotlight, where because now the people have a voice. That's what's changed, you know.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of really good stuff about it, but everything gets abused, everything gets misused, and there's always you know, an opposite reaction to what is intended.
Right. Yeah. And then it's so hard to really control it, or, because
Well, especially when it's um, so poorly regulated by the creators of these platforms that literally, as you saw in that documentary, try and get you addicted. Like I'll be on Facebook and I don't have any notifications, and all of a sudden I get 2 notifications and they have nothing to do with anything. I get a notification that a friend commented on another friend's post. I get a notification that someone is attending an event in this area, which I'm not interested in at all, at all. And it knows that, but they just want to give you notifications because you're so excited to get these notifications. It used to be simply someone liked your photo or someone commented, and that's it. But now we get notifications for 1,000 different things just to keep us engaged. Like any app, download any new game right now on a smartphone, and like I went, I visited the family recently, so I needed a game on my phone so I can escape. And in these little mini games, a tennis game, I have an inbox now in the app. I have a treasure chest to check. I got my daily, you know, tennis bag to open. I got like 5 different things, notifications that I have to check every time, you know, and that's kind of similar to what's happening now. Is everyone's trying to keep you constantly engaged when what we should be doing is just turning it off and checking it out. I think my wrist is really hurt. My wrist is really bothering me right now, and I'm pretty sure it's because I'm always holding my goddamn phone.
Is that so? Oh, wow.
I don't know what else it could be.
So it's almost you develop like carpal tunnel just from holding your phone.
Probably. You know, but when you think about it, the phone can be part of your entire. It wakes you up in the morning.
Yes.
It tells you the news.
Yes.
It directs you to work. You make calls for work. It could be part of every moment of your day.
Yes.
You know, it's only a matter of time before they just implant it, which I'd prefer for my wrist's sake.
Yes. Okay. And then, because you mentioned earlier that there are a few months that you delete your Facebook app and probably, you know, not even log into any of your social media. So basically you went on kind of like a social media detox, right?
I guess so. Well, only because like, and I would still check here and there, but I would browse Facebook for literally like 30 seconds, and I just feel uncomfortable about it, and I just get, you know, and I go back to Reddit. Reddit is fantastic.
Okay. And how was that kind of, I guess, short period of detox? Like how do you feel like it helped you, and what did you get out of it coming out of it?
I haven't really thought of it. I don't know if it actually helped me. It was certainly a relief to not, because, you know, like if I see somebody post something about something I disagree with or something that I believe in or whatever, if I comment on it and all of a sudden you got this back and forth, I just didn't have time to engage.
Yeah.
Like that's what I realized during the Black Lives Matter movement in June, when it really hit its peak. I was really involved and active and commenting and like when I found people that disagreed, I never exited the conversation. I never blocked anyone. I always tried to just, because there is, if a Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter, people tried to have that conversation, there is eventually some gray area that they can find, but we'll never find that gray area because within the first 2-3 sentences, I know who you are, you know who I am, fuck you, fuck you. I don't have time for it. It takes a lot of time to get to that gray area.
Right.
And I was desperately, trying to get there, and I just didn't. Then I got some personal work to do, and I got some projects I'm working on. So I literally just didn't have the time to get into it because I had these strangers that were trolling me on Facebook on my to-do list. Like I said, I can't respond to this right now. I need to think about it and give your idiot response an appropriate response, respectfully, without calling them names or whatever, to try and find the mutual understanding, because that is the biggest problem in this country, in my opinion, where we just don't listen to each other long enough to find that gray area. So instead we just hate each other on the opposite sides because we don't have time to talk it out. So fuck you and fuck you too.
So it's almost like it's just better to just ignore it and be like, oh, whatever, I'm just gonna do my own thing.
Not better, but it's certainly easier.
Sure.
And and a lot of people don't have the patience to take it to that level because it takes a long time to talk these things out. A long time, and you really have to care, and you really have to research and read their bullshit links in their articles that they send you. Somebody sent me, like, I posted something about how a former CIA director said how bad Trump's administration was, and someone responded to that saying, "You don't know what's really going on," and then they sent me, and I said, okay, well, look, I'll listen to you as long as you listen to me.
Yeah.
We can have this back. And she sent me like 20 different articles,
Oh.
and I left it unread on my messenger app because I do want, it's a homework assignment now, but she sent me so much. I'm overwhelmed, and I haven't, it's been like 2 months and I haven't gotten back to her. And I will, but it'll be way too late by the time I do.
Right. Well, she just wants to make her case. I mean,
well, yeah, but then but now to not be a hypocrite, I need to look at every video she sent, read every article she sent, go through it and say what I agree with and what I don't, and really take the time and give her back this manifesto, and in hopes that she takes the time to do the same for me. And then we go back and forth over the next 5 to 10 years and then maybe find some gray area. I mean, really, that's what it's going to take, because it is such an investment of time to try. And the whole while I have to be open to changing my mind. Like I'm team Biden, I guess. I'm team social justice or whatever. But I need to have my mind open to thinking that the people that stormed the Capitol were in the right? I don't think I'd go that far.
Right.
But I do need to understand why, and I need to be open to believe in some of these crazy conspiracy theories if I'm going to have a conversation with those crazy, I don't want to call them crazy, but with those people that think differently, to have a respectful conversation, because otherwise we'll never find that gray area. So I check out. I don't have the time.
No, I get it. I understand. I mean, like we said, though, it is hard to have those, I guess you can say, respectful conversations, right? Because you can go through all their articles, you can go through all their videos and give an appropriate response, but then you can't guarantee that they'll do the same on their end, right? So then it just becomes like a very one-sided, conversation, or one-sided, where you're doing all the work and they're just sending you stuff, you know what I mean? And I'm always, I mean, that's part of me. For me, I mean, I don't know if it's the same for you, but I mean, those people, the ones that send a lot of stuff, I'm always a little bit skeptical. The reason why I say that is because it's almost like, if you're sending me all this stuff, that means most likely all your material that you're sending me is gonna be like really biased towards what you want to see or what you want to hear or what you want to read, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And they
unless,
probably didn't
yeah.
read the article. They probably didn't
Oh
watch the
yeah,
video. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
the headlines are everything these days.
Yes, it's absolutely. You're absolutely right. Yeah, you might be right. Yeah, she might just kind of glance at the sort of clickbait headlines title and be like, hey, okay, this I agree with this headline. I'm just gonna send it to this guy, right?
Right. Read these headlines. Meanwhile, I'm reading the article and being like, this is insane. You realize that?
Yeah, no, that's why no, that's why I agree with you that it is kind of like a really difficult line or difficult wire to balance on, right? Because to make these conversations meaningful and deep and also connective and meaningful, like you have to send like both sides. You have to like be open to like different perspectives.
You have to be open to changing your mind when you have these
Yes.
conversations. And a lot of people can't. And so when you're thinking that I'm completely right, and here's an article why you're completely wrong, that is counterproductive.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's just your own point of view that you already made your decision. You're not going to change your mind.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at the same time, I'm pretty sure that my mind will not be changed.
Okay.
Like I'm not like, but I have to be open to it, and I have to really try and believe. Because
Sure.
like I'll watch Trump give a speech when he's at one of his rallies,
Yeah.
and the way that he talks, like I watch him, and like my mother's like, oh, I can't believe, but
Yeah.
I'm watching him, and I'm really trying to listen and trying to believe him, and
Mm-hmm.
trying to just to see what that is like, and like
Okay.
he really talks from. It sounds like he's talking from the heart. And it
Okay.
sounds like he's just talking to you in a living room, like
Okay.
he's like a comedian. He's really
Okay.
conversational. He's really good at what he's doing,
Mm-hmm.
But then I see him read from on a teleprompter saying, I do not condone violence, and you're not part of this country. And it sounds totally flat and different, where people that are following him know that he doesn't really mean that, because they can hear it. They know when he's speaking from the heart and when he's having to be a politician. Similarly, like a lot of the GOP senators will speak off the cuff, and like Lindsey Graham does a lot too. Where and the thing is, like, regardless of what they're saying, they're talking more naturally, so I can connect to them. Not saying that I personally do, but like you're able to connect to that kind of person more, where if you see someone else being really professional and by the book and reading from a script, I tune out.
Okay. Okay.
So I don't know how I ended up saying that just now.
It's okay.
But that was something I realized recently, where a lot of the Democratic senators will be very careful and
Sure.
specific, and will read so that they don't say anything they shouldn't.
Yeah.
At the same time, we're watching somebody read, we're not connecting with them.
Yeah.
It needs to be entertaining in such a way where we can connect. Meanwhile, Lindsey Graham's going off saying whatever, and I'm at least listening to him. Doesn't mean I agree, but I don't know where.
Well, I mean, it's like a public relations thing, right? I mean, they gotta maintain a certain image. I mean, that's usually how it is. I mean, it's not just politicians, right? Like for anything, like any public figures or any even corporation, right? They got to maintain that image. That's just part of the deal. But I get it from your standpoint. Like in order to connect, like you want it to be from that person, to be from the heart. Whether what they're saying makes sense or not. But if you can hear from the tone, you can hear that like that's what they really meant. Like expressing it, then that's where you connect with people. I agree.
Yeah, but like when you think about like how can all these people believe what this Trump is saying, it's like, well, when he talks, it sounds like he's actually talking to you. Whereas when Biden gives a speech, you can tell that he's reading.
Sure.
So it feels less genuine. Now that being said, I completely believe Biden more than Trump 100%.
Yeah.
But for someone who's not aware of that and is already on the side of Trump, they're going to think, of course, I believe like that's why they believe everything Trump says, because he's like, I won the election. I mean, it's clear, and he's saying it so matter of factly that you want to believe him. Not you or me, but Generally, it's very manipulative, and he's good at it. You got to give him credit there.
And of course, you know, normal people, they probably maybe lack the, I don't want to say knowledge, maybe I guess lack of knowledge, or even lack of common sense, that they can't tell if the person is being manipulative or not.
Well, it's
I mean,
a
can
lot
you
of it is
tell?
like, um, can I tell if Trump is being manipulative, for example?
Or like just anyone in general?
I don't know. I don't know, because people are actors. You know, we all are. Even right now, you and I, we're on a podcast right now, but
Sure.
I am not. I don't. If behind closed doors, I might say some terrible shit. Who knows? You know?
Right.
So it's just hard to judge. So you have to take what people are saying and then think about what they're actually saying. Like, you know, people ask Trump what his favorite passage in the Bible is, and he's like, the whole thing, you know, no particular passage, because he's never fucking read the thing. He has no idea. It's obvious. But then other people say, but it doesn't register to people that already are on his side.
Sure.
And as far as people believe in which side or what, you know, I come from a very liberal family, and my whole family is you know, full, you know, very liberal mindsets, and open-minded and open to different cultures and genders and whatever. Meanwhile, if my whole neighborhood supports Trump and thinks like that he's great, and my whole family thinks he's great, and I was raised from a little kid to think that that kind of stuff is right, and that the Democratic side is evil, it's going to take a lot to open your mind to what's really there.
Well, yeah, because you're brainwashed, you know, since you're a kid, you know.
A little bit, basically. Yeah, pretty much. And you know, to change your mind and see, you know, the flaws in that side, you know, you have to say that my whole family's wrong, all my friends are wrong, everything I've ever known, I've been wrong. You know, people that have been outspoken in favor of Trump, to say that, and I keep using Trump as an example, just he's kind of just a good representation of that extreme side of America. You know, I don't want to give him so much credit, because these people have been here long before he took office.
Right. Yeah, no, that's okay. No, but I mean, I get what you mean. You know, it is hard to detach yourself from all that, because you're like what you said, if you were raised that way from a little kid, that's all pretty much all you know. And that's like kind of the same thing that, you know, this is gonna go a different direction. I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but this is kind of what Scientology does too. Is what they do is that they literally brainwash like people, like their little kid when they're little kids. You know, the family would brainwash them when they're a little kid. So then kind of continue on to believe in Scientology. Yeah, it's
not kind just of Scientology, all religions.
Oh yeah, all religions. But because I had this kind of conversation with another friend of mine, because we were talking about cults, and we we're talking about Scientology a little bit, and he was telling me that like what Scientology is on a whole different level, because what they do is that they actually do take like little kids to like almost like concentration camps, like their own concentration camps, and like literally brainwash them to the point where, like, you know, to even suggest them to break out, that is almost impossible. So they're like on a whole different level. Other religions, you can argue they're maybe a little bit more legit. I mean, maybe their process or procedures, but yeah, I mean, I just brought up Scientology because it's just, I mean, I thought it was fitting, you know, in terms of
it's a good example, because similarly to what they do, I mean, maybe not to that extreme, but that's what the family does to the kids. You know, that's what our families did to us in a way, intentionally or not. It's not, you know, it's just like, this is what we believe as a family, so this is what you should believe as part of the family. And if and so then you believe it until you find something strong enough to make you think otherwise, or you decide that it was, or hopefully it was right after all. I don't know. But Yeah,
Yeah.
like I was a psychology major for a few weeks in college before but the thing that turned me off from it actually was that, I thought, I thought studying the human psyche was really interesting,
Yeah.
but all the classes were about child development, and that
Mm.
really turned me off. I didn't want to learn about kids. I wanted to study adults.
Mhm.
But I now realize that we are all still children, and these problems we had as kids are with us all the
Yes.
time. So
Yes.
what happens to us as children really just never leaves in a way. So
So basically how you
child
grew.
development is so fucking important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, basically how your parents brought you up, where you were raised, and the
Mhm.
environment that you're around. That's all is all related to.
And how you feel about yourself and how you feel
Yeah.
about others and everything, like that stuff is deeply rooted and really hard to change once you're an adult.
Uh, yeah, no, I hear you. No, no, because and that's the interesting part where let's say if you go see a therapist, or even you meditate or do any of those kind of practices, that what's interesting is that you start to dig into your mind a little bit more, and you start to realize a lot of the thoughts or a lot of your own beliefs. Sometimes you can be able to even trace it all the way back in the past when you're like a child, like, oh, this is how I grew up, and some of these things are how I was taught, and like what you said, it's all deeply rooted. We're like, oh,
Hmm.
well, that's the reason why I part of it is why I feel like this, or I'm the way I am, and
Hmm. Hmm.
there's a good and bad to it, but for the most part, I feel like it's bad because the honest truth is that because parents are humans too, they make a lot of mistakes,
Hmm.
and from what I know is that there's some parents, like, I have friends who are parents, and some of them, they're kind of learning it as they go too.
Oh yeah.
So because of that, like, you already know in general that most people aren't perfect. There's going to be a lot more downside.
Right, but according to this Instagram post, that person
Oh,
is
okay.
totally perfect and has everything all together.
Oh, is that
And
so?
man, I wish I had what they had, because
Wait,
they know, you
what
know,
Instagram post is this?
all of them,
All of them.
you
Okay.
know, all of them, because that's how you perceive others, is they have it all together when really everyone's just trying to figure it out as they go.
Right, right. Because you see their highlights, basically. Yeah,
Hmm.
you're right. You're right. And there, I mean, there's good and bad to that too, because maybe they feel like doing that brings more joy and positivity to people, right? If they post highlights, but I guess apparently
Well,
that's.
I mean, I'm not gonna post the days when I live in my own filth and haven't done anything. Hey
Well, you know
everyone,
what? If you
have another one
do,
of those days.
if you do that, actually, I don't think it's a bad idea, because it shows that you're genuine, you're real.
I will do that once I win an Oscar or something, or establish myself to be so successful that, until then, I will never reveal the truth.
Well, I mean, I don't. I feel like a lot of people are okay with peeking behind the scenes now.
Yeah.
Um, so it's actually okay, like, even if you're not at that status level. It's just what it means is just showing people that you're being human, right? Because
Yeah, but then people might see it as a cry for help. So they say, "Hey,
oh
you okay?" And it's like, "No,
oh
I'm fine. Just let
oh,
me just let me hate myself for a day." you know.
well, you don't like people care about you.
Uh, Actually, that is an interesting idea.
That's an interesting
Some,
idea.
Sometimes it does turn me like,
Why is that? Why is that?
I don't know. Sometimes you don't want to be helped because you
Huh.
want to get there on your own. Like I've had moments in my life where I'm not feeling so great, but I don't want to. And I start talking about it, and then some people start giving me advice. And I was like, no, you don't understand. Just
Mm.
let me live here, and I'll figure it out on my own. Because then, if someone says, well, hey, you should start going to exercising or something, then I have to share that success with them, where it's not my doing. It's because now they're taking credit for me changing my life. And
That's interesting, because I mean, why would you think that? Well, let's say if someone suggests you to go exercise and you do it and you feel better. I mean, depending on the person, I don't think they're gonna take credit for it. They're just suggesting things, right?
No, I know.
Oh,
This
but in
is
your mind.
this is the petty negative
Oh,
thought patterns that I've found myself in from time to time.
oh.
Where like out of spite, I will not exercise at all, and I'll show you how. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know.
Okay. So
Psychologically, we are all very complex, and
sure.
there's just a lot to think about these days.
So for you, on your psychological side, you're thinking that, you know what, I want to go through this struggle myself. I want to try to figure this out myself because if I do, I feel more, proud, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Because because you know that you can get there. You know that you can do it on your own, but you do need help. Generally, and it's good to let people help you. But when you say like you don't like people helping you, there have been times where I
Sure.
don't want anyone to help me, and I want to just struggle and get there on my own.
Okay. And the follow-up question is that to that is when do you usually know when I guess at what point or when would you tell yourself, okay, I actually do need help now?
I don't know. For some
It's-
people, that moment never comes.
oh,
Because that's in a way it's an admission of defeat to your own demons, and and then you have to reveal that you have that you needs to other people, which so me personally, I don't know, but that's the kind of thing that a lot of people should probably do and don't.
okay. And are you generally a person who is kind of against therapy? Like, because
No, not at all.
okay,
I've done it. I spent most of my 20s doing it. I was against medication at the time because, and I tried things here and there, but I'm not in anything anymore. Just because again, there's a lot to think about these days. So we all
sure.
have our shit. But
Yeah.
uh, at the time, I had like anxiety or whatever, and I didn't want medication because I wanted to get through on my own. I don't want
Yes.
to cheat.
Like a natural way, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, I think therapy is really important. The thing is, I treat my beloved friends and family as my therapists, so I'm kind of an open book that way. So I generally talk out things that are anything that's bothering me, but I do think it's very healthy to have that blank canvas to speak to on a regular basis, and we probably all should be in. Therapy has such a bad connotation,
Yes, it does.
and it has such a stigma attached to it. Just like you ever see The Sopranos?
No, I have not.
Why I neither have I, but when COVID hit, my roommate and I watched the first 2 seasons.
Okay.
I don't think it holds up so well, but in that machismo, mob sort of, oh, you're going to therapy, you're fucked up, yeah, serious. Oh, that's embarrassing. Don't tell anyone I'm going to therapy, like you're embarrassed about it. It should be a very normal thing.
Yeah, it should be, but why do you think is not though? That's also another thing I've been trying to
because it's an admission of it's in a way saying I'm weak maybe, or I don't have my shit together actually, and everything you see is just me hiding how I'm really feeling. And, it reveals a vulnerable side of you maybe that a lot of people don't want to.
I see. Because for whatever reason, this culture, this society, they only really want to see everyone having their shit together. So if you're one of those that you're not, then you're kind of breaking away from that culture in a way.
Yeah, it's been like that, but I do think that that's changing. Like Howard Stern constantly tells people that he's going to therapy and how much he needs it, and how
okay,
like it's become like the reason that Sopranos doesn't hold up so much is because that macho alpha male persona isn't so popular anymore. Now it's all about expressing yourself and telling your friend that you love them, and and being just
your weaknesses, basically showing your weaknesses.
Yeah, showing your weaknesses and being stronger because you're revealing that. And and mental health itself has become a much more normalized thing to discuss and reveal to people.
So the interesting point about that, actually, with the mental health too, I see a little bit of a shift now. The main shift is in terms of mental health, because you talked about Sopranos and the whole macho thing. I agree with you too. There's
speaking of macho, do you see this cup here?
Nice. I do.
For those listening, it is a Frozen mug and it's
Yeah.
very pretty. Sorry,
Yeah.
you were saying?
Yeah, no, the mug is pretty cool, actually. Anyways, I do see a shift where a lot more males are being more outspoken about mental health, because I think for many years, not just even years, probably decades, the main part about it is really like the mental health with males, right? Because everyone, in the culture or society, they see it as where, the female is always the emotional one, where like, oh, if they go see a therapist, and so that's normal, because it's a female, right? But then if it's a male doing it, if it's a male doing it, it's completely like a different reaction, which is actually very interesting that there's a shift now, I feel like.
Yeah, like it's time for the sensitive males to rise, I think.
Sensitive males to rise.
I've always been a very sensitive guy, and I've never and I've always been so comfortable. I like to think of it as being comfortable myself, where I don't have to put this like whenever I see a real tough guy sort of persona who needs to, or especially if I see someone who's like, all tatted up and looking really aggressive and looking really intimidating.
Yeah.
Or all decked out, I think they care so much more about their appearance than me. So we're all just scared little kids, I like to believe.
I mean, everyone cares about their appearance, but I understand what you mean.
I know. But like, I'm not going to spend my whole paycheck trying to look a certain way. I'm comfortable with myself wearing a shirt and pants, sir. I don't know.
Right. And do you believe that being more sensitive or more open to it, you're able to connect with people in a deeper way?
Yeah. Actually, something I've always done is by being so open about this stuff myself. Kind of the reason I do it is, first of all, that because I like to really connect with people, and by opening up yourself, it empowers them to open up just the same.
Okay.
So then we can start, getting to the real quality of life that.
Okay, and then
hard for people.
So let's say if that person doesn't open back up to you, then that means it's just not the right person to talk to, basically.
I don't know. Not necessarily. Often, sometimes. So say that I'm, I have a conversation with a friend, and I'll open up about something that is bothering me.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, and they'll offer advice or whatever, or they'll try to help, and I'll say, "Don't fucking help me." But or they'll share just the same. But either way, I just feel like it creates a stronger bond with people when you just are that honest about yourself.
A couple more questions. Do you sometimes feel weird though if you were opening up to, let's say, like a female friend, whether it's like a significant other or not? Because the reason why I ask that is because sometimes there's still a lot of females that they could only imagine a male being kind of like the macho type and not like the sensitive emotional type. So then when they kind of meet that, they're like, oh, well, I don't know how to feel about this guy.
Well, anyone I'd be talking to that deeply would already know me well enough by then to, or it wouldn't be such a surprise.
Okay, got it. Okay. So like I see. Like the ones that would be like, I don't know about this guy, and they're just being judgy, and they're like, okay, forget it. Okay.
But if it were that situation where by some crazy chain of events someone thought I was a real macho tough guy, which would never happen, I would love to surprise them by by revealing what I'm really feeling, you know. So I don't think that would bother me.
Interesting. Okay. Well, you know, I only brought that point up because you know, because you know, there are females that those are the kind of guys that they're attracted to. You know, like
That's what we're led to believe. I don't know how true that is.
you don't know how true that is. Why you say
Yeah.
that?
Well, that's what the movies make us think, you know, like that's what the media puts in our minds, that that's the kind of guy that people are really attracted to. And then, you know, there's certainly some truth to that.
Yes.
But the type of person who's attracted to that kind of guy might not be the type of person I'd want to be with anyway, you know, so there's all social levels there.
Yeah, but see, that's the part that's hard to get rid of, because I mean, because media is always going to be there, movies is always going to be there. So you know, because where we know that our minds and our brains they're so suggestive that that's probably mostly what, you know, many females would be. I mean, actually, I shouldn't say that. I'm not an expert in it, but you know.
But so you're well, you know, you still developed an opinion based on, you know, plenty of years of observation. So
Yeah,
still a valid point.
yeah. I mean, you know, because unless you know, people stop watching movies or even stop paying attention to media and literally rewire their brains and think differently, I would still believe that a good portion of people will continue to.
Right. Well, even like I don't feel right if my girlfriend has to ends up paying for the meal or something. I mean,
Yeah.
I still let her do it, but I don't feel good about it.
Sure.
Because deep down, it's
Yeah.
a social norm, which you know is based on a time when women weren't allowed to have jobs.
You know, that's funny too when you say social norms. Is I always joke around with like some other friends, and we're always saying like, you know what, let's just go find a sugar mama and then just enjoy life instead of having to worry about the social norms.
Right. Which it's quite a fantasy.
Yeah.
But then would you feel good? But would you feel good about that? You know, it sounds nice, but in the actual execution, day in, day out, having to ask for an allowance from your significant other, are you going to feel good about yourself? Probably not.
Well, okay, but actually, but you have to understand that I think nowadays there are a lot of husbands, or a lot of guys are the ones that are doing like the stay-at-home dad, you know, taking care of the kids, and
Yeah,
so the roles are reversed, you know. If the roles are reversed, then I guess technically you can say like, well, you know what I mean?
Well, that's a partnership. That's
okay.
a little different.
Okay.
When you say sugar mama, I imagine you just want a free room and board vacation.
Okay.
But if you're staying home, having to cook and clean and take care of the kids, that's a whole nother story.
Okay, got it. Okay, no, you're right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. If it's like the partnership, I guess that only works. Yeah, you're right. It probably works better only in like the whole partnership, the role reversal thing, because you know, because that's when you're actually like, oh, hey, my wife makes more money than me. That's cool. I mean, I feel happy for her, you know, things like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I saw something on Reddit recently where the Kamala Harris's husband's Twitter says the future second gentleman of the United States. You know, because and someone commented, "Geez, how emasculated can you get?" And it's like, I see that as being even more strong and quote unquote masculine, because he's comfortable and proud,
Right.
and you know, like people that need to show off their masculinity, I feel, are the most fragile of us all.
Yeah, it's true. There's something deeply like deep inside. There's a problem there, and then you know, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure he's not like bumming around, not doing anything. I mean, he's probably has his own.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely. But his wife is the more accomplished one at this point.
Right.
And like you know, with Better Ginsburg, did you see the RBG documentary?
No, I do.
I only saw the first half of it. Unfortunately, I should have watched the whole thing.
Okay.
But she said that her husband, she couldn't have achieved anything she did without her husband supporting her.
Sure.
And I can't remember why exactly, but because she was, you know, she was the first in a lot of ways. I don't remember the details, but what I took away from that was like he was able to. A lot of men couldn't handle being with a woman who was smarter and more accomplished than they were. You know, so it takes a real man to take that backseat. And when I say it takes a real man, I don't even know if that's the right terminology these days, because you know it takes a strong person in general to be able to.
Because the ones that can't handle it, I mean, they're probably letting their ego take over their minds, right? And say like, oh well, my wife or whoever can't make more money than me. You know, I got to be the the accomplished one. I mean, that's all the ego talking. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you know, being humble and all that are really important traits. Like, you know, I went to Chico State for college, which is, you know, it's a school, and you still have to do your homework. It's not as a party school, but it's still it's still school. You still have to, and you know, and graduating in that environment isn't necessarily so easy. But my sister went to Berkeley, and that's, you know, way more prestigious, and I wonder if I should have tried to do that instead. But instead of hiding from that, on my resume I say that I went to Chico, but on my resume I'll say my sister went to Berkeley too, and we're related. So I'm kind of directly
interesting.
I get a little credit too, right? Just by being humble. So
is that so?
Okay. So I think it's important to be humble like that.
Right, absolutely. Okay. All right. Well, final question before we wrap it up, because we are starting to run out. Well, I wouldn't say run out of time, but we are getting to that cap hour.
Yeah, for sure.
So final question is, at least in your current moment now, your current state, I mean, how do you feel mentally right now?
Because of the podcast, or because of in what regard? How do I feel just today in general? How do I feel because of the world? How do I feel about my own personal life?
Let's go with how are you feeling at this moment, and then also how you feel about your life, like those two aspects.
Well, from my life in general, I you know, I have a lot of really good things going, but
that's good.
It's never enough, you know. So I need to first let it be enough, but at the same time keep striving for more. So you know, constant struggle that way. And since COVID hit, you know, I've been learning a lot of new skills, and the learning process isn't always easy. So personally, I'm getting by, you know, I'm fine.
Okay.
Haven't been in a good mood for some reason, but you know, immediate family, we're going through some changes, and you know, and the country's going through some changes, and there's a lot of you know, news updates that are not designed to put you in a good mood. But overall, I'm feeling like this is going to be a really big year for humanity. That's a big statement, but I do feel like you know, like the people that Biden's putting in his cabinet, like actual scientists in charge of science, for example. You know, it all sounds too good to be true based on what we've had recently. So and the COVID vaccines getting distributed, and just you know, and I don't know. I feel hopeful that we are all going to be in a good place this time next year. Great, man. That's a great thing to end it on. And I do, you know, do want to tell the listeners to just, there's something we have to keep looking into it and keep investigating our thoughts, our minds, and, you know, mentally, just staying well, you know, just being healthy. Which is a constant battle every day. It's a constant battle. Yep. You're absolutely every day right. You got to start again. Yep. You're absolutely right. But I love it, man. I love this. We, you know, I'm sure at some point in time we'll have you back on again. Yeah, sure. Anytime. We can always, I'm sure we can always talk more about any kind of stuff, which is really great. But anyways, so thank you, Matt, for coming on. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yep. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And
Any, I guess, any important information that we've mentioned now, once, I'll do the same thing as usual. I'll post it all in the description, so anyone can feel free to research and look at them. Yep. Until next time, we will be back again. Thank you.